Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Monae and you are watching Life is Monae. I have not done a haul since I want to say my birthday of last year. I kind of went crazy for my birthday last year, especially with like COVID and being on quarantine and like just new releases and books that I wanted to get to. And so I ended up doing like a 2-part upload to my birthday haul, and I bought a lot of books. And so I wanted to go on like a book buying bin, and I tried to do that in June and July and it didn't necessarily work out. And then I, by some grand gesture, fell into a slump around August of last year, and I cannot believe it, but between August and December, I did not purchase any books, not a single one. The downfall of that is that I missed so many releases that I wanted to buy, and also just books that I had on my radar that I wanted to purchase. And in December, when I started reading books again, I kind of went crazy. Yeah, I probably went a little insane with the books that I have in front of me. But yeah, we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about all these great books that I have here and why I'm so excited to read them. First up, we have Kingdom of Souls. I know that there is a new release for this book scheduled to come out in February or March, one of the two. And I've scheduled a buddy read with Alana from The Awkward Book Nerd and Kay from I Love Books Okay. And so we all decided to get together and read the first book, Kingdom of Souls, in anticipation for the new release, which is book 2. So we have a main character who has no magical abilities at all, and she's disappointing her mother, and she keeps trying to have all these different type of magical abilities, and she just can't do it. She can't call on spirits or talk to ancestors or anything that is magical in her world. And she has this market in her world where people go and you can trade years of your life in exchange for magical abilities. And she swears that like that's just the end of the road. She's never going to do that. She's never going to resort to that. If she doesn't have magic, then she just doesn't have magic, and it is what it is. But then kids go missing in this kingdom. And in order for her to figure out who is snatching up all the children, she ends up doing a thing that she swore she would not do, which is go to the market and start trading years of her life in exchange for magical abilities to catch the child snatcher. And there's some type of darkness demon luring in the background of this book, and I'm just really looking forward to getting into it. And I just can never get enough of Black fantasy, especially as a fantasy reader. We do not have enough people of color, women of color in the fantasy genre. So I'm looking forward to getting into this one and for our buddy read next month. So the next book that I grabbed is actually a new release, and it's called Lore. So in this world, there was a past rebellion that basically failed, and there are 9 Greek gods who every 7 years get stuck walking the earth as a mortal, and they have this big enemy looming over. And then we have our main character Lore, who somehow is aligned with this enemy, and this enemy is her enemy too, and it kind of becomes the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing, because our main character has Athena, the goddess, show up at her door gravely wounded, along with a friend that Lore swore had died years ago, and they're all asking her to join together and band together to defeat this looming evil enemy that they both share in common. And honestly, I'm just here for the Greek mythology and Greek lore, because that's all I needed in this book. So I don't have any type of expectations going into it, as long as I feel like the lore and the world building is done correctly. And I'm interested to see how it plays out, because I know that we meet our main character Lore in New York City. So it's definitely modernized. And so I'm interested to see the twist that Alexandra, is that her name? Yes. Alexandra does between tying in urban New York City with ancient Roman and Greek mythology. The next book that I picked up is Ironheart, which is the sequel to Cryer's War. I'm getting ready to read Cryer's War within the next week or so, and I know that book 2 was already out, and the covers of these books are absolutely gorgeous. Like Cryer's War and Ironheart is just, the covers are stunning, and I just really wanted to own both of them. And also, if I read the first book and I like it, I wanted to be able to go right into the second one without having to wait for shipping to arrive. The next book that I picked up, you guys will probably recognize from my fall anticipated releases, and that is To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. I was so looking forward to this book before I fell into my slump, and I just did not even want to try to push through an 800 or 900 page book, no matter how much I anticipated it while being in a slump, because I just knew that that was a recipe for a disaster. And now I have my hands on this book, and I cannot wait to go into it. We have a main character named Kira who makes like a first contact with aliens, and they kind of take her mind or body vessel captive. She's dealing with everything that entails. Meanwhile, back on Earth, there is dangers looming. Humanity and the population is in dire, desperate need of some saving, and I believe that Kira is going to play a part in that if she can figure out how to maneuver these newfound alien relations that she's now a part of. So the next books that I purchased is a part of a trilogy, but right now I only have the first 2 books, and that is going to be the Diabolic and the Nemesis. I know that we have this thing in the first book, might be a robot, AI, not really human cyborg situation. Anyways, they're created for the purpose of protecting one person, and so in this book we follow our cyborg AI robotic person Nemesis, who's created to protect Sidonia, and Sidonia gets summoned by the Imperial Majesty to this Imperial court, and the only way for Nemesis to keep Sidonia safe is to become her. And so she kind of infiltrates this system as the person that she's supposed to be protecting in order to protect her. I know that sounds really confusing, but I'm really interested to see what happens in these books. I've heard mixed reviews about them, but I am interested to see how it works out and if Nemesis can accomplish her goal of keeping her person safe, and also what she discovers in the world of politics. Because Nemesis is not necessarily human, one of the biggest challenges that she faces is pretending to be one, because Nemesis doesn't have any humanity, but in order for her to pretend to be someone, she has to find humanity, and we don't even know if that's possible for her to do. This is a 3-part series once again, but I only have the first 2 books, so we're gonna see how it works and if I feel like finishing up the series when I'm done. Okay, back to before. I thought that I didn't have the 3rd book in the Diabolic series, and that was a lie. And I'm pretty sure this might be the 2nd book. Y'all, I'm lying to y'all in my own video. I done told y'all that I didn't have the 3rd book to the Diabolic, and I look like a complete fool because yes, I do. The Diabolic is the 1st book, the Empress is the 2nd book, and the Nemesis is the 3rd book that just came out in 2020. And I don't know why I thought that I didn't have all 3, but I definitely do. And I'm just gonna blame this on pregnancy brain, because we are now 6 months pregnant and things are starting to lose their grip in my mind, and this is a result of that. So the next book that I have was actually sent to me by the publisher, and that is going to be Rebel Sisters. This is the sequel to War Girls, which I haven't read yet, but I received an email from the publisher basically asking if I wanted to receive a hardback of the book, because they were trying to get the book in the hands of many POC book reviewers, especially Black book reviewers, and I just thought that that was a great way to make sure that people of color was included when it comes down to talking about these books, and also getting honest reviews from people who can understand the culture and just a lot of the things that went into making these books possible. So I said, of course I want the copy, and now I have both of them, and I'm planning a vlog to read both of them soon, but I have so many books that I need to read, and these are just not high up on my list no matter how bad I want them to be. The next 2 books I have is going to be Prodigy and Champion, and I recently read the 1st book to this trilogy. Yes, I recently read the 1st book to this trilogy, and that is going to be Legend, and it was one of the books that I read right after my slump was over, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It took me back to like nostalgic YA dystopian vibe, and also I'm on this Marie Lu kick, so I'm in the middle of reading a lot of her books, and I thought it would be perfect to start with Warcross and Legend, and I recently bought, like I said, Prodigy and Champion so that I can continue with the series. So Day is our male character. He's out in the world doing his own thing, and he causes a lot of mischief for the Empire, which is the ruling government in this world. And then we have June, who is the prodigy of the Empire and one of the youngest like elite soldiers they have coming out. June's brother is murdered and Day is pinned as a suspect, and so because of that, June is stuck with the task of hunting out the most wanted criminal in the Republic, which is Day, and getting her hands on him, which is not necessarily hard to do because again, she is the prodigy of the Empire and she's pretty much a badass female character. But the more that she gets to know Day, the more she realizes that the Empire may possibly be lying to her, and things that she thought was true may not necessarily be true. I've already read Legend and Prodigy, and so Champion is the last one on my list to get to, and I'm really looking forward to it. Another book that I read soon after my slump was over is going to be Scythe, which I thoroughly enjoyed and immediately went to Barnes & Noble's the next day to pick up the next two books, which is going to be Thunderhead and The Toll. And at the time that this video is going live, I have already finished the series. I have some unpopular opinions, and you can catch those in my wrap up, which I will link in the description cards above and below, so you guys can get my thoughts on this as well. And also, I'm not gonna say what this book is about because I will also be saying what it's about in my wrap up, so no need. The next set of books I've had on my wish list for a long time. I said, you know what, there's a new release coming out and the series is just getting longer and longer, and I'm already 5 or 6 books behind. And if I wait any longer, I mean, I'm gonna have 10 books to catch up on. So I finally bought them, and that is going to be the Wayward Children series, which, let me put them in order for you. So these are novellas by Shauna McGuire, and there is Every Heart a Doorway, Beneath the Sugar Sky, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, Come Tumbling Down, and In an Absent Dream. I plan to read these in the month of February, so you guys could be on the lookout for my wrap up of these. I'm excited to see which ones I love because I've invested in these and they're supposed to be whimsical, and so that's really why I bought them, because that's the only word I need to make me buy something, is to call it fantastical or whimsical. So it better be, or I'm going to be very upset. Next book that I picked up was A Sky Beyond the Storm, which is the last book in the Ember Quartet. So at the time of recording, this is another series that I have already finished, and I will link the video in the description box and in the cards above. In anticipation for A Court of Silver Flames coming out, I bought the new sets. I sprayed the freaking edges. I'm scheduling a buddy read along with 4 other booktubers, and we're going to read a book a week until we get the new release, which is A Court of Silver Flames in February. And I'm really excited, if you cannot tell. I got the inspiration to spray my edges from Monte because Monte did a video over at It's Monte Price and his edges were sprayed, and I just could not be like other girls either. And so I immediately ordered the copies and sprayed the edges myself. Monte has a video on his channel where he walks you through how to spray the edges of your books, and I literally copied it verbatim. I didn't even change anything except for A Court of Mist and Fury. I couldn't find the color that he used, so I ended up using a different one, and I'll put the colors that I use for each book in the description box if this is something that you guys want to do. But as you can tell, she's really excited. So after reading the Scythe series, you guys know me. Whenever I find an author that has an extensive backlist of books, I try to get through as much of them as I can so I can get a full scope of their talent and what they're about. And keeping with that, I also bought Dry by Neil Shusterman. This book is a dystopian-based book where the state of California has officially run out of water and the taps are completely dry, and I'm really looking forward to it because although I had some unpopular opinions about the Scythe series, I still enjoyed the books enough to give them higher ratings, -1, and so I wanted to see what else Neil Shusterman had to offer, so I picked up Dry as well. Not just sticking with the new releases, I wanted to go all the way back, and so I did pick up the Unwind series by him. I do have 3 books in the series, and I believe it's a total of 4 or 5. The other one just is not here yet, but I did order the first 3. This is another dystopian type book, which I guess is Neil Shusterman's theme. In this book, the world that we're in is like a time period in America where we've stopped arguing about abortions, and they've basically made it illegal until the child is 13. And when the child is 13, if you do not want them as a parent anymore, you can have them unwound, which is where they take apart their body parts and use it for someone else. So they break your kid down for parts and give someone eyes who may need it, or an arm who may need it, or a leg who may need it. And that's pretty much all I needed to know about this series to purchase it, because that just sounds really interesting and I'm interested to see how he does it. And also it's one of his earlier works, and so I want to see the growth between one of his first series and the newer ones that he released more recently. Here we are again, because the agenda to get me to read Brandon Sanderson just will not go away. I received this holiday season as a Christmas gift from Aaron over at Booked and Busy, because this is a whole campaign, propaganda campaign, to get me to read Brandon Sanderson, and I did not have to spend my money on this book, and I'm inclined to read it, I'm not gonna lie. When I got my hands on the hardback copy, I was just like, maybe I shouldn't get the mass market paperbacks because this just feels good in my hand. And so because that one felt so good, I went and got the hardbacks of the Mistborn series because I am finally gonna read them. I promise it will be happening before this summer. And I went to Half Price Books and I was able to get Skyward for $10. It's a brand new hardcover copy of the book and it retails for $20, and I was just like, if I can get it for half off, that's even better. So yeah, these are the last couple books on my haul. Do not ask me what those Brandon Sanderson books are about. You know that I don't know, okay? But we're gonna discover them together. And so while I cannot give you a synopsis now, stay tuned for my wrap up because then I will be able to tell you what the book was about and what I thought about it. 2 birds, 1 stone. Those are all the books that I have for my haul. I will see you guys in my next video.